In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the lark still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the dance below. We are the dead, short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow. Loved and we loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields, in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw. The trophy yours through holy fire. If ye break faith with us to die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Hello everyone, my name is Notepad Anon and I write games for fun. So what are we doing today? Well, today we're going to be finishing up Trenchfoot. Yes, this is going to be the final day of it. The game is pretty much done. What I need to do is actually, make the game, actually playtest this thing. The issue is playtesting is difficult because it just requires people, and people do things, and that's what it kind of boils down to. There are some things I'm not 100% on yet. The two things I am very much not 100% on is how attacking works. And I don't think I described it very well. I think that's going to be kind of an issue. And I don't think that, I think there's a lot of little factors over it that's making things a little bit more complicated. And I think I just need to if I run it a few times, I can understand okay, it isn't as bad as what I think it is, or I'm making it out to be something a lot more confusing, or people understand this. I'm thinking less of people because I do that. Oh Jesus. But yeah, so generally today what we're going to do is this. This is the advanced tactics. This is adding additional things, moving things around, generally making life a little bit easier for everybody involved. And it's funny because it decided to not show it until the very end here. Man, I love ProfitBot. ProfitBot has done nothing wrong. But yeah, this is the general gist. This advanced tactics. What I can do is we're going to write it in here as advanced tactics. So the big thing is we're going to have, of course, national armories, which is going to be the Entente versus Central Powers, which should be relatively easy to do. Extra details. I have a few ideas. That's pretty much the idea of the big thing here is gas is going here, because gas is gas. Uneven combat situations. Pretty much things here's Gallipoli, or here's that if someone has a 2,000 point list and you have a 1,500 point list, what's the situation currently going down here? Or hey, this person doesn't start with any cover, or there's situations that I can try to do in that there. And then we have Eastern conflicts, which trench building isn't going to be as big, and it's going to be more about trying to get groups of units to move together. That's it. This is mostly going to be more of an order writing situation. And then the eras of conflict. that's pretty much it. So advanced tactics. Let's do the standard Trenchfoot. The standard Trenchfoot experience is how do I want to word this? Actually takes place roughly in the quote first phase of the war, with armies that are interchangeable. This is due simply to make things simple and easy to understand. However, if the commanders agree, actually this should be commanders agree, then additional rules may be added on top of the existing rules to determine. They may be added on top of the existing rules. So that means we go all the way down here and we do this and this. I said this. With armies that are interchangeable. Pretty much it's to make your life easy for everybody. That's the reason. I will say absolutely nothing until I see it. And I really can't say anything about TG because TG is full of fucking idiots. This should be no. So we're going to do national armories. If the commanders want to further diversify their armies for a particular nation, then they are allowed to choose. Actually, keep putting a apostrophe. I shouldn't do that. It's just a habit. And they are allowed to choose. And they're allowed to choose the national armories rules. These rules allow the different nations to diversify their forces and qualities of their armies, often with an upside and a downside. How do I want to word this? An army cannot have multiple nations fighting together. It is British. It is French. It cannot be a Franco. It would be an Anglo-Franco. Maybe Franco-Anglo. Would be Anglo-Franco. Okay, Franco-British. Let's see. It cannot be a Franco-British. It cannot be a Franco-British army union. Let's see. Both commanders. Let's see. Both commanders must choose opposing armies. One from the Entente, and one from the Central Powers. while the French may have wanted to shoot a British person. Actually, while the Germans may have wanted to invade Austria near the end. They are still allied. Oh, so. Yeah, TG in a nutshell. Yeah, it's. I don't know why people think it's like TG's like this sophisticated place full of intelligent people. It's really not. Like, there's some stupid fucking people on TG. I'm from there, for God's sakes. So, let's do this. We want to do it. Commandant. We want to go to Trenchfoot. We want to go to the Untitled spreadsheet. I have like a dozen Untitled fucking spreadsheets. It's a problem. And we're going to do this. And we're going to select you, but let's actually double check to make sure that you're correct. Very important. Is this correct? Yes. Actually, what we can do, we can just do this. And what we'll do is the Entente. The Entente. Comprised of allies of convenience. It's comprised of allies of convenience, strong, ancient ties, and even the desperate. The Entente is the defender. Is composed primarily by the British Empire, French Republic, and the Russian state. It would be the Russian Empire and the Russian Empire. Later in the war, forces such as the Italians. Here, I actually have a full list of everything. Let's pull that up. Jamie, pull it up. Let's see. We want to go to the Big Think board. Big Think. Oh yeah, what I should do is do that. Got to move all of these up. Move everything up like this. There we go. There we go. The Russian Empire, the French Republic, British Empire. Technically, what we can do is we can do this, and what we'll do is the Actually, we can do the Serbians. Yeah, if you want to play a Serbian army, you totally can early on. Second wave. Okay, so later in the war, forces such as the Italians and the Americans would come to assist them to stop the Central Powers. Again, it's kind of a it's hard because I don't want to throw in like literally everybody, because that's going to get ridiculous. But what we can do is, how do we want to do this? Actually, what we can do is the we can do the British Empire. The British Empire, they are going to get, actually, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this. Let's see, the British at this time, we're going to give them, they're not going to get any bonuses here. They're not going to get any bonuses to their guards. but we're going to bump up the conscript fee. That's going to be one of their big problems, is that their conscript fees are going to be pretty expensive. However, the infantry fee is cheaper. Actually, do we want to do this? How do we want to do this? The idea is that the British are going to be heavy infantry. Yeah, we can do something like drag down. Actually, no. No. What we can do is increase the attack value of their infantry by... Actually, we can increase the organization of their infantry by 1, representing the fact that they're kind of a lot more... Roughly speaking, the British at this time were probably better trained. Let's see. British advantages in World War I. Financial diplomatic strength. Okay. Let's see. So vast resources of manpower. Okay. So actually, what we could do is here's what we could do. We can make something really, we can make cavalry can be the same. We're going to reduce the cost of conscripts down a little bit. Reduce the cost of infantry down. Reduce the cost of stormtroopers. However, conscripts are only going... Actually, but what we can do is we can increase the cost of cavalry by a significant amount. So it's like you're not really going cavalry armies with the British. That's the unfortunate thing. Like your cavalry sucks. It's way expensive for what you're getting out of it, but their conscripts are really cheap. So conscripts and infantry is what you're basing everything on. So the British Empire is still in its relative prime. It's still the most powerful in the world. Able to draw upon its vast colonies for resources and manpower. So again, we don't have things like, we can't really say here's the naval bonus. You can't really, that's not really a thing in this game. Therefore, what we can do is we can reduce the supply cost. Even reducing that's reducing it down by a good chunk. For it, infantry are also pretty, this 10 cheaper. It's one of those things like you can get another infantry, you get another conscript in. Doesn't seem like a lot, but you can also get another stormtrooper in. It's just reducing them. They're just cheaper. Who got good cavalry? I'll probably end up giving the Austrians the idea that the Austrians are probably going to have decent cavalry, just because they're so heavily outdated. So yeah, that's probably what I'm going to be doing. Actually, what doesn't get changed? Actually, if a brigade is not listed, then nothing changes. So nothing changes from its base. Nothing changes from its base. So what we can do, since guards do not change, we can just delete that. Yeah, so they get a lot of different things that they can really kind of bring to the field, but their machine gunners also don't change. British just have a lot. The British can just field men. That's the advantage of the British. However, what we can do for the French Republic, the French bear the initial onslaught of the Germans, being pushed back into their own territory. Unlike the British, this is a battle for survival as well as honor. Their big thing is they're not going to get their. We're not going to change you. Their conscripts are actually going to get 1 attack value. So the big thing is their conscripts are going to be on par with infantry. They're just bad at defending. So you want to, as a French, you want to just swarm them with conscripts. Just throw money. Just throw it at them. We'll do. What's the French advantages in World War One? Hello, phone. What do you want to tell me? What's up? Oh boy, there's gonna be a pride parade tomorrow. Awesome. Cool. Okay, so what we can do is we can give the French, they have cheap conscripts. We'll reduce the cost of their infantry a little bit. Or we're gonna jack up the price of their machine gunners by a bit. And we're gonna jack up the cost of their guards by a lot. So their big thing is they don't get any change to the cavalry. So the big thing with the French Republic is that you have a lot of conscripts, you have a lot of infantry. They're very good. The problem is your guards are very expensive, so kind of making those conscripts go complete gamer mode is kind of a heavier investment. Fuck it, what we can do is we can make it 200. You forgot the Poles. Well, you gotta remember, World War I, Poland. You gotta remember, Poland did not exist as an independent state in World War I. There was no Poland didn't exist until after the war. Therefore, I'm not really factoring them in. Oh, hello. Someone's here. We want to do the Russian Empire. It takes time. Well, it takes time to mobilize the army. Well, it takes time to mobilize the army. The Russians have two major advantages. Numbers, and a desire to win, and numbers and the ability to replace those numbers. Commander of the Russians must understand that blood is to be spilled. Must understand that blood is to be spilled. So their gimmick. Let's did I still have it? No, I used the wrong one. Fuck, I'm a dumbass. Behold, a fool. Let me see. There we go. We want to go here. We want to make a separate page just for that so I don't forget about it, because I inevitably will. Okay. Here's the advantage of the Russians. Are you ready? Are you ready, sailors? We're just going to increase all of their actually, your organization's not going to go up. All of their organization increases by 1, i.e., you have bodies. That's what your main advantage is. However, we're going to compensate this. Guards are going to be more expensive. Cavalry's not going to be more expensive. Your stormtroopers are going to be a lot more expensive. And your machine gunners are going to be a little bit more expensive. So in exchange for being able to take more hits, you're good. What I can actually do is what we'll do. We'll reduce the cost there. The conscripts are very cheap. They have no fighting ability, and they're designed to literally die. Actually, what I can do if I really want, reduce the defense value of guards by 1. Yeah, if I want to. See, if I really want to, is what I could do is just do this with infantry, just reduce that, but then their value of conscripts is going to go. Yeah, there we go. Just increase the cost kind of across the board. Actually, what I can do, there we go. You're trading defensive value for raw health. That's all you're doing. You want to just throw bodies at the enemy. There's no strategy. There's no victory condition. It's bodies. Which leads to things like, oh, the British can get conscripts pretty cheap. Their stormtroopers are a little bit cheaper. If you want like a reliable one, it's them. Like, no one else. Like, the Russians, there's no strategy with the Russians. Well, the thing is, it worked in the first. Here's the thing: it worked in the First World War. The problem was there were a lot of problems at home. You can't throw. Turns out people don't like it when you throw your own citizens away too much. Bolsheviks don't like that either. You can probably. Actually, I'm curious. Russian Civil War war game. I'm like, yeah. There's the Russian Civil War. There's quite a few things you could do with this, and there's a good reason. Like, there's some very complicated, very unfun times to go. So what we can do with the Serbs? We'll do the Serbians. Actually, what would they be during World War I Serbia? What would they be called? They were the Kingdom of Serbia, right? They were the Kingdom of Serbia. Yes. Or did you end up changing something to the welcome to the Bosnian crisis? Yeah, okay, so to the Kingdom of Serbia. This war was started by the Austrians invading, and as such, commanders of Serbia have to buckle down and hold the line. What they lack in manpower, they make up for in raw determination. So their big thing is their cavalry is going to be a little bit cheaper. Conscripts are. Actually, no, we need to do. So we're going to make their cavalry a good deal cheaper, just for the fact that like they can get, like they want to field just shitty cav. Their guards are going to be 200. Infantry is going to be pretty much everything for them is going to be a little bit more expensive, with the idea being that you can't field as much. However, what we're going to do is we're going to give conscripts a 1 there. Actually, we can bump you up to 35. We're going to give infantry. So we're going to reduce the infantry down by that. We're going to reduce their defense value up. They're going to be almost on par with machine guns. But actually, what we can do is we can bump them even further. Defense value for the guards is fine. Cavalry defense value. We can actually give cavalry a defense value just because of what they are and what the plan is for the Serbians. The stormtroopers aren't going to be as good though. Like the strategy is to survive as the Serbians. You're going to throw a lot of men at a death sentence. We'll bump you up. So we'll even make you 45. There we go. There we are. You're a lot more expensive. You got a little bit more health, but you don't got much. You're expensive, you're there, but you're very defensive. Fun fact, you do not want to be on the offense with the Serbians. That's going to be a bad time. So that's all the, actually what I can do is the Kingdom of Italy. Which we'll do actually is second wave. The Italians joined in opposition to their historic rival of Austria-Hungary. Launching their campaign in an effort to join the major powers. Competent, able, but wholly unprepared. And what we're going to do is not much is going to change for the Italians. The big thing with the Italians is that their stormtroopers are going to be fucking amazing, just a little bit more expensive. Their machine gunners are going to be a little bit more expensive. And their guards are going to... And their conscripts are going to be a little bit more expensive. There we go. Anyway, that's really it. It's kind of along the idea, like, this is the idea of the Italian mountaineers. That's kind of the big idea behind the stormtroopers, is that they're the mountaineers. Like, they are very good at what they do. They are invaluable. However, the issue is they are very good at what they do, otherwise known as dying. What we can do is the United States of America. United States of America, the third wave. The United States of America has been the arsenal. Has been back and forth with their support of either side. However, in the late war, the Americans opted to join the Entente. Landing a significant expeditionary force to assist. However, there's one thing with the Americans that everybody must know. Their conscripts are the exact same cost as their infantry. You're not using conscripts. That's kind of one of the problems. You aren't really using those. To make it up for them, though, what I'm going to do is do that and increase the cost of raw infantry. Actually, what I can do is do something like this. There we go. I don't want, I'm going to encourage you to not use conscripts with the US. That's not the point. This is a quality over quantity army for the US. Let's see. We'll do the Central Powers. After the death of Archduke Ferdinand, the Austrians called in their ally, the Germans, to assist them in their Balkan war, leading to a mass cascade. Of alliances triggering all at once. At the heart, two failing empires struggle to maintain relevance and their place in the sun. While a powerful industrialized nation looks to cement itself as the true leader of Europe. Because one of the big issues is the idea that the Central Powers are really held together by the Germans. Like, they are insanely tough. But the Germans are there's the reason why the Germans kind of gave everyone a run for their fucking money. Let's see. The German Empire. Under the rule of the Kaiser, the German Empire emerged after the Franco-Prussian War. Franco-Prussian War, where the Germans seized the historic territory of Alsace-Lorraine. They are industrialized, powerful, and innovative in military pursuits. There we go. Now, they have two big things. One, cavalry is far more expensive. Two, machine gunners are a lot less expensive, and their stormtroopers are a lot less expensive. Outside of that, nothing changes. Well, actually, we know what I can do is I'll give the cavalry have 1 attack value. That's the Germans are pretty much pretty standard faction, except they're allowed to go very aggro or very defensive very easily. With the additional problem being that aggressiveness can be a little bit to their downfall. So this leads us to the Austro-Hungarians. Austro-Hungarian Empire. Over the past century, the Austro-Hungarians have suffered actually. The Habsburg. So all volunteers fall into infantry. Yeah, kind of the idea is between conscripts and infantry is conscript is here's a gun, you're going to start fighting, versus this is someone who's actually kind of knows what they're doing. Usually the idea would be this, you can also call these experienced versus the green. It's kind of like the idea, it's eventually over, if your conscripts survive, they would upgrade into infantry, but it's like, picture a bunch of guys who are just completely fucking helpless and just throwing them at the problem, which has happened a lot. So, rate this VTuber. Let's rate a VTuber, everybody. Well, that's already a 3D model, so no. I don't like 3D models. I think they look weird. Let's see. Over the past century, the Habsburg. I did it again, didn't I? The Habsburgs have been declining. Declining in influence and power. The Italians, the Russians, and even their German allies have embarrassed them in the military. However, the Serbians daring to kill the crown prince was the final nail in the coffin. was the final straw. All will know the true emperors, the true emperor of Europe. Fun fact, they will not. Remember, kids, if you ever want just the Austro-Hungarians will always be like one of my favorite just bits of history out there, because you realize just how fucked they were. It's like, damn, you guys suck. Johnny, we're going to bump their guards up to very expensive. Their infantry is going to be fairly cheap. Their machine gunners are going to be very expensive, and their stormtroopers aren't going to be very expensive. They're going to be pretty standard. Their stormtroopers are not going to change. The idea is like they're kind of outdated. That's kind of the gimmick I want to go for them, is that they're very outdated. Attack value of 1. Conscripts. Their conscripts are cheap. Guards are a little bit more expensive. Infantry is a little bit cheaper, but they're going to get a little bit more men in them. There we go. So yeah, it's like the Hungarians have the issue where everything is just a little bit harder for them to actually do things. But they have to make up for it in bodies. Something that they have a lot of. But yeah, I can't represent, hey, your empire's falling apart. I can't really represent that very well. Yeah, we'll make them just a little bit cheap. There we go. 30 should do. 30 is a good amount. Then we do the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire. The sick man of Europe is still the premier power of the premier power of the Middle East. However, over the past few years, their influence has diminished. Many of the imperial powers seek to carve them up, and even the Italians have seized. Dude, be Algiers, right? The Italian-Ottoman War was Italo-Turkish War, Tripolitania. And even seized Tripoli from, even the Italians have seized Tripoli. With the war sparking over the Balkans. With the war sparking over the Balkans, the Ottomans took a chance and assisted with their historic enemies, if only to reclaim that small bit of glory. Now, the Ottoman Empire has some small issues. Which the big advantage is that their cavalry is dirt fucking cheap. Their conscripts are dirt cheap. Actually, their guards are very expensive, and you shouldn't get any of them because they are very expensive. Actually, we'll do 225 on that. Their infantry is good. Don't really need to worry about that. The machine gunners, I'm going to bump up their machine gunners just a little bit, and their stormtroopers are going to reduce down a little bit. However, the big thing is that their guards are insane. Their conscripts are numerous. Actually, what we can do is we can bump their conscripts value up to one. Actually, no, we bump their conscript value up to 1-1s, and their cavalry is going to be 1-1. But in exchange, we're going to do. We're going to do that instead. There we go. Machine gunners are very expensive for them. Their guards are very expensive. So you can, again, the idea being like you can use guards to make conscripts good. However, since their conscripts are so cheap, they can just use their guards for everything, and their cavalry is very good. Actually, we delete conscripts but keep their cavalry, or we make them 25 conscript. We'll make them cheap 25. Okay. There we go. This isn't perfect, but it'll work. Because generally speaking, that was really all who joined the Central Powers. It's like, well, what about the Bulgarians? I'm like, yeah, the Bulgarians joined, but they joined late war, and they didn't really do much. They're the Prussians of the Balkans. So if you're like, I want to play the German Empire, if you want to play just play that. Okay, cool, awesome. That is all of them, and then what we get to do here is we get to click here to make sure update everything, and next we get to work with extra details and atrocities. Cool. Details and atrocities. Trenchfoot is ultimately still a quote game that needs to be played. Some smaller details were left out. For the sake of gameplay or ease. Here are some spot rules for the I really need this in my World War I game situations. 1. Gas warfare. Chlorine gas. Chlorine gas was used in World War I for the first major time. Leading to its eventual ban in the Geneva Convention due to the raw danger of chemical warfare. If the commander has an artillery piece, they may choose to add a modifying order of instead gas. When gas is fired on the enemy, place down a small token as an indicator. All units are, all units that would be affected by the artillery are instead reduced to half of their total. Actually, all units that would be affected by artillery are instead reduced to one organization. After the gas is fired, they may make an immediate retreat before engaging in combat. If any, the gas will dissipate after at the end of the next turn. If any unit attacks across the gas area, they are instead reduced to one organization. Pretty much the big thing with it is that instead of just one organization, if drift is a required mechanic, then the enemy if drift is required mechanic, roll a die of some kind, moving it. The gas will drift. No. So pretty much the idea behind the gas warfare is that you can fire it instead. You don't do any like raw damage. And because one of the advantages of artillery is that if they're attacking, you're going to do damage, and then they're going to immediately kind of run into a gun line. Here is they have the option to retreat immediately because you've done an insane amount of damage. Problem is you can no longer attack. And because if you were to attack, all your organization would be reduced to 1. So it's kind of a Debbie Downer in both situations. You've canceled out a method of attack in addition to, you know, them canceling out attacking against you, which one of the big things too is it always invites retaliation. That's always the big thing. This will always invite retaliation. Okay, imagine people throwing mustard gas at you. It's because if I fire gas, then you're going to want to fire gas, and then I'm going to fire gas again. That's kind of like one of the biggest issues with a lot of these like bigger, scarier weapons is that it invites immediate counters. Well, I've lost, like, well, you fired gas at these turns. Well, I'm going to fire gas at your guy. So we're both never going to be able to advance now. We have flooded the battlefield with gas, and all our friends are dead. So let me be actually. Barbed wire and let's see, barbed wire and deadly. If the a no man's land is a mass combination of barbed wire, blown out shells, and a variety of nightmarish sights of blasted hellscapes. If a actually, how do I want to word this? Actually, when making to simulate the sheer bloodshed of no man's land, there may after the third turn, any attacker will immediately take 1 organization damage to all attacking units due to sheer attrition of charging across such a hellscape. That's the idea of you're rushing across and like one guy trips and falls into fucking barbed wire and is dead, like, or just random shells and shit like that. That's what this is. It's like after 3 turns. What we can do after the 4th turn. Yeah, after the 4th turn. Oh, you are a. So it's kind of like the idea of like it's just raw attrition. We'll do supply wagons. To simulate proper supply lines. A quote supply wagon. A supply wagon can be a placed down unit that, in addition to the commander and artillery pieces be moved. If the supply wagon is not within not within 3 inch, not within, we'll say 2 inches of brigades, they cannot perform any actions needing additional supplies, including reinforcements. If the supply wagon is ever captured, the enemy receives half the remaining supply. So this is the idea. Necessarily isn't like this is where all your supply is, but it's kind of the logistics. It's the logistics companies. It's generally saying like, here is the people who, you know, make sure you have food, and you have to kind of manage them alongside everybody else. So, oh, we want to make these big pushes. Well, if you want to make these big pushes, you're going to have to move your fucking supply wagon in really awkward situations. I'm going to make it 4 inches. That they might get lost or just shelled, and now everyone's dead. Let's see, it's 5:30. Cool. Yeah, I got time. Let's see. That would be extra details and atrocities. Actually, what we can do is no, listening post. Listening posts were small trenches dug forward with the intent of relaying information back to the trench, often warning of imminent enemy attacks. Actually, no, that's silly. I don't need that. Actually, we can do complicated intelligence. Intelligence gathering is a mixture of recon, scouting, and reading letters from. Actually, intelligence gathering is a mixture of recon, scouting, and reading letters from well-dressed men. However, if you want a bit more confusion to the mess, both commanders receive a single piece of dummy information. Dummy information can be used at any time. To simply lie. If simply lie after an intelligence order. After this. Lie after an intelligence order against them. The dummy information is then revealed at the end of the next turn. Signifying the delay in information between commanders, signalers, and potentially even soldiers. So the idea behind it is like you have a free little thing that you can kind of keep track and be like, hey, how many soldiers do you have left in reserve? And you look at it, you have 0. He's like, and you say, you spend your dummy token, and you're like, I have none. I have 5 left. I have 5 guys in reserve left. They're like, perfect. At the end of the next turn, you'd be like, oh yeah, by the way, I bullshitted. This is for 2 things. One, it is just some guy spamming intelligence every turn, not doing anything. Just intelligence, tell me more, tell me more. Put a piece of bad information in there, because the thing is, you don't have to reveal of what you lied about. Simply that you lied. So like all his information then suddenly becomes compromised. And that's kind of a, I think that would be kind of interesting. Let me see. We want to do, actually, no, we don't need that. That's kind of the idea behind what an artillery point piece is an artillery battery. Let's see, is there any? No, what would be another like big issue? No, I don't know. Actually, we can do this. Death gasp. A unit reaching, actually, unit reaching 0 organization. Organization is assumed to have been soon broken and reduced to a negligible size of men. Their removal from the field is less about raw casualties, and simply their value is non-existent. However, instead of a brigade reaching zero organization and then immediately being removed, they can instead be pulled back and reinforced. However, the commander may always choose to sign a death warrant. The unit is permanently removed. Actually, the brigade is permanently removed. But they will deal their full damage on the next tick, even if they are at 0 organization. However, it's assumed that many, if not all, of the men are dead. So it's kind of the idea of like, this can last games to go a little bit longer because you can pull back people with 0 organization. It's mostly a supply game. That's an attrition war at that point. However, you can also say they're going to death warrant and just throw bodies at the enemy. There's no strategy anymore. That's a raw like all my friends are dead. Please send help. Let's see. There we go. Gas. Gas. But not 2. We need 3. Supply wagon. The supply wagons. We are losing our supply wagons. Please send help. Yeah, like most of this is bullshit, but negligible immediately. Okay, so we got all of this. Okay, that means since we've got all of you, we do that button, and then we have Eastern conflicts. Cool. So on the Eastern conflicts, on the Eastern front, of the war, battles were far more fluid due to the raw size of the front. Rather than digging trenches, men maneuvered and prayed for success. If the commanders wish to employ such a system, they are allowed to using the following rules, which we will do. I have no idea how long I've been muted for. But, yeah. I might have been just dead silent for like the past 20 minutes. I was talking. But yeah, Trenchfoot is done. I meant to do some playtesting today. Never got, and just people kind of got busy with stuff, so I couldn't do it. But yeah. Yeah, I was talking that entire time. I said, yeah, no, there's an advantage, because for context, I have my, on my numpad, my 9 is my mute key. No, it's like the way I have it set up is a little bit janky. I have to test on TTS. So I will just, if anything, the rulebook will be available. I'll just throw it out. But yeah, I have it on TTS and all that set up. But I have it on numpad 9 as my mute key. And anytime, and for fun fact, bullet points are, to do a bullet point, it is Alt 14, it is 0149. And so yeah, I've been talking this entire time. I just never checked anything because I'm a fucking idiot. But yeah, Trenchfoot is done. Trenchfoot has 2 issues. I'm going to say that right now. Trenchfoot is a little bit janky just because of what it is. And it does require a lot of setup. There's a lot of little things to consider. And that was kind of going to be an essential thing regardless of what I did. And I felt like it was going to be an essential part of whatever I did simply because of what we're actually fucking working with. This is a diceless war game, an RNG-less war game that you always know what's going to happen, and all the little, like, there has to be hidden information, and hidden information requires this and that and this. That's kind of the issue with this right now. Like, I think it works. I think it'll work. Just all the little details are present, and I think everything will work together. It's just right now there's a little bit of like, I think attacking is the weirdest part, because the idea is that you can only attack forward. Like you can only jump out of your line and go in a straight line. That's a little janky. I'm not 100% on that. I think orders could probably do a little bit of reworking, but that might just be me thinking they're complicated, but they're really not. I need to, that's why I'm like, I'm going to send this out to my friends, being like, write me some orders and what do you want to do? That's, again, that's just playtesting things. But yeah, no, I'm happy with Trenchfoot. It was a weird game. It was a weird idea. And there's a lot of, this game is a lot of if and or buts. I don't think the game itself is very complicated. I think there's a lot of little things with it that can make it complicated, and everybody needs a notebook nearby. Everybody needs, like, how do I want to word this? You need to be really diligent with your friends, and you need to trust your friends to play this game. I think that's like one of the biggest issues, is that there isn't really any bullshit. There's no bullshit detection system really, because like in 40K, for example, let's say Warhammer 40,000. In that game, you can tell if somebody's like, well, I rolled a 6, meaning like, no, you didn't. I clearly see you rolled a 3. There's things like that. Like, you can't really lie. Like, oh, well, my Space Marines have armor 5 or whatever, armor on a 2-up. I'm like, no, they don't. Don't say they have an armor save on 2-up. They don't. So it's kind of like that. Because that isn't present in this game, a little bit worried. I'm also worried people aren't going to get the order system very well, which I thought about putting in like a system where you can like call people out, being like, oh, this order doesn't make any sense, or you didn't fulfill your order. I don't know. Again, there's a lot of trust that goes into this game, and I don't really know how to get rid of that trust. Like how to reinforce that trust, if that makes sense. And I think reinforcing that trust is going to be essential to making this game really work. And if you have that trust, then I think the game is going to work just fine. If you don't, then that's going to get a little bit hinky. But I think that's kind of like my biggest issue with it. Outside of that, I think it works. numbers could do some numbers can use some adjusting, but that's another like I need to playtest the shit out of it to just like look at the numbers. But yeah, that is Trenchfoot. We are done with World War One now. We did it, everybody. We fixed World War One. We made it home by Christmas. Unfortunately, we have a very fun one to do next. Cause don't you think everything is just nice and easy and done? No. It's never that easy. You know that. I know that. We all fucking know that. However, if I do, yoink. Get rid of Trenchfoot. I don't need you anymore. It's time, everybody. It's time. Oh, God. All right. I mean... Yeah, okay, so here's the thing. Here's how we're going to do this one. MGA is going to be a little bit weird. Because I'm literally going to have to appeal to a bunch of people being like, what do you fucking want? There's a non-zero chance I'm going to have to go to the JP people for Monster Girl Adventures being like, hello JP, it's me, your boy, Notepad Anon. What do you fucking want from this? I wrote it initially for the TG guys. However, they're useless. What do you all want? Another half of me is like, do I just say fuck it and kind of abandon the MGE aspect? Kind of go against the original Monster Girl Encyclopedia aspect, and like, do I go just full bloody, or do I just go super comfy? What do I cut? What do I don't? This is MGA Remonstered is literally going to be me having to rework the entire game from the ground up. I've made that as like that's just a thing I have to do. I know that. It knows that. We all know that. This is a thing I just need to remake from the ground up. And I'm going to need some help on that. So, if you know anybody that you're like, oh boy, I really do love me some monster girls or whatever, then tell me. Tell me what you're looking for. What do you want? Tell me what are you looking for and how are we going to do things? Because this is there's a lot of maybe ifs here, and I don't know. So, thank you all for watching. My name is Notepad, and I hope you had a wonderful rest of your time. And I will see you all tomorrow for the scandalous case of romance RPGs. Yeah. I've been going through those, the scandalous case of romance RPGs, and all I'm going to say is very simply, help. Please, God, help. There's no God here. Please, no, get me out of